My mother passed away before I was 10. My uncle, mother's elder brother, took me in and raised me because my father had already started a new life and a new family by then. My uncle treated me well, though I'm not sure if my aunt feels the same about me as he did. My uncle and aunt had an only son who's around my age, and what he had, I had it too. For example, if my uncle got my cousin a laptop, he would get me one too, which would be of the same worth. My uncle even got me a car for my 18th birthday, so my cousin also treated me just like his own brother. I'm very grateful to have them in my life. Everything I have and that I am, I owe to them. But unfortunately, my relationship with my uncle has recently hit a slight snag. In my culture, it's usually the parents who will help out with purchasing a home for their sons when they get married. The reason is that people in my culture tend to marry young, but most of the time, we would not have worked long enough to save up enough for even the down payment. For a man not to have a marital home is considered a disadvantage, and the women's family may not accept the proposed union, so a man having a marital home is very important. In my case, because my mother has passed away and my father is an absent parent, my uncle and aunt are my de facto parents. Indeed, my uncle said he would buy me a marital home. However, he has set a condition for that. I have to change my last name to his. Last names are a big deal in my culture, so this is not something that's taken lightly. My uncle said since he's been like a father to me, rather than my own father, and also as a remembrance to my mother, I should change my last name to his, which is also my mother's. So basically, no change in my last name equals no marital home. I told him this is an unfair demand because, as I said, last names are a huge deal in my culture, and a change could trigger uncomfortable questions from people. But my uncle insisted that if I refused to change my last name, I would have to buy the marital home on my own, which is impossible because I'm a fresh grad, and it could take years to save up for the down payment. This could seriously set me back in terms of a romantic relationship and future marriage. Because of our disagreement, you refused to change your last name to your uncle's last name, also your mother's last name, who took care of you since you were 10 and treated you like his own son just because you're afraid of uncomfortable questions from random people? Yeah, sounds like you are the idiot. I imagine OP's culture values some names more than others, as some names would be associated with a higher class, which sucks and makes OP the idiot, as he's more worried about what people think of him than grateful for his uncle's generosity. Someone who raised you like their own for your entire life wants to give you upwards of $250,000, and the only condition is that you change your name to the family name, which is also your mother's name. Oh, poor you must be so devastated. You are the idiot. He's done everything for you out of kindness, but he's not obligated to do everything for you. He's not your actual father, so he's not duty-bound to help you with your house. If you think he is duty-bound, then he is your father, and you should understand why he wants you to share his name. You can't have it both ways. Why is changing the last name such a big deal? Women are expected to do it all the time. I guess it's only men whose heritage and identity that are important. Everyone's the idiot here. You can't expect him to pay for a house as if he's your dad without legally showing you see him as your father. He's an idiot for putting this as a condition first, but he's not your dad. He doesn't owe you a house. Either save up for it yourself or change your last name. 38 male. I am single and childless by choice, but am close with my family, especially my niece and nephew. 18 female, Stephanie, and 18 male, Alexander. I own a small business near a major university that caters to students. It's mostly a bookstore specializing in discount textbooks, but we also sell coffee and baked goods and offer study areas. Since it's hard to find jobs that fit high schooler schedules, I've allowed Stephanie and Alexander to work at the store since they were 15. I had an offer with Stephanie and Alexander that I would either give them their payment weekly or put it in a bonus college fund for them. I recommended the college fund as it would be more useful in the long run, but it was still their choice. They could change their payment route anytime. Stephanie chose the college fund route, while Alexander wanted weekly pay. Now they're 18 and going to college in the fall. Stephanie has a hefty amount saved up in her college fund. She claims it'll be enough to cover 3 years at her chosen university. She's also received several scholarships, so she can easily cover the rest with student loans. Alexander is much less responsible with money than his sister. He has virtually no savings because he'll almost immediately blow his paycheck on things he doesn't need. The longest he saved was for 3 weeks, before he decided to spend it on a video game console. Alexander was accepted into his dream college, but said he was unsure how to afford it. My sister-in-law and brother were previously middle class, but lost a lot of money during the pandemic. They recently asked me if I was willing to help cover at least the first few years of Alexander's undergraduate, because most teenagers aren't that great with money, and if Alexander had to leave his dream school while Stephanie could afford hers, it could cause the family to resent Stephanie, and I should, quote, prevent that rift before their relationships get hurt. But the twins have always had a good relationship with each other, and I think it's unfair that Alexander gets bailed out while his sister has to work hard. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Stephanie's college fund isn't even your money to take. She earned it working. That would be stealing her wages. If you were contemplating helping Alexander, it would need to be without touching the money Stephanie earned. As for pulling from your own emergency fund, no, this is all nonsense. Ask your parents where their contribution is. He had the same opportunity as his sister, but his choices now do not afford him the luxury of a debt-free college. This was his choice and his choice only. He can take out student loans, and since the grandparents are so concerned, they can chip in as well. All of this falls on Alexander only to solve. See how bad he wants to go to college, and what he'll now do to achieve that goal. It's time he starts making better choices. Not the idiot, but you didn't contribute to her fund. You paid what you owed her. It's like saying my boss contributes to my rent. I am, however, curious about how 3 years of part-time wages added up to be enough money to cover 3 years of university for her. I, female 32, have recently inherited money from my mom. She was the only parent, and losing her is beyond devastating. The money can barely be called inheritance because my mom and her family didn't have much, but it's better than nothing. My fiancé at first said I deserved it and have the right to do whatever I wanted with it. However, he told his whole family about it, and then his infertile brother and his wife pulled him aside for a conversation. After that, he started talking about wanting and needing a nephew or niece, basically hinting about his brother's infertility issues, then flat out requested that I pay for his brother's and wife's IVF treatment from my inheritance money. I was taken aback initially, but then I declined. He got mad saying I was selfish because, number one, he and I are blessed never to have issues with fertility, and number two, literally have nothing to lose if I give them money, easy money that I didn't work for. This upset me to the point where I lashed out at him, telling him to stop bothering and guilting me about it. I denied the request as my final decision, but he got more agitated and went on a campaign to shame me for treating him as if he's not my future husband and therefore gets a say or a right to my inheritance, and not giving a single crap about his family issues. What the heck? If my spouse asked me to just give it away, as if it's free money, I'd be livid. Him speaking so insensitively about your mother's passing, nothing is easy about that, is another red flag. He's dismissing your experiences completely. His putting his family's needs and wants before yours, and even asking you to do this is over the line, but he shames you for not giving in. More red flags. Please, please, please rethink this marriage. I think the inheritance was another blessing from your mother, showing you that this man is not meant to be your husband. So maybe take a mini vacation by yourself, away from the drama. Who knows? You may actually find your soulmate there. He is showing you your future. Is this what you want? I'd ditch him and find somebody who won't treat you this way. He doesn't need a niece or a nephew. He might want one, but it isn't a need. His brother and sister-in-law need to figure out how to pay for IVF independently. How would they intend to pay for a child? Put your inheritance money in an account that your fiancé cannot touch, or else it'll magically disappear, and his brother and his wife will be getting IVF. I won't explain much about my daughter's choice because it's ultimately not mine. My wife and I have a daughter, Jay, 23, who just graduated college a year ago. My wife and I came from a poor background and worked our butts off to give our child everything she would ever need. She's a good kid, smart, kind, and polite. She got a full ride to a good school and moved away. 2 months ago, she called us to tell us that she was pregnant, with no father in sight. My wife flipped on her, full of exaggeration and criticism. She thought our kid was throwing her life away because my daughter was eager to keep the baby, and my wife wasn't okay with this. She asked me if she could come back home for a while, work locally, and overall just be around us because she felt scared and alone in her big city and wanted to spend her pregnancy with us. My daughter didn't use much of her college fund, barely 18 to 25%, and had good savings. She's also the kind of kid who always helped around the house, so I said yes. My wife didn't have much problem with this, but ever since our daughter came back, my wife has been passive-aggressive at best. Awful comments about how she messed up her life, how naive she is for thinking she can keep going with a kid, how the beginning of a career is the most important thing, and she just ruined it. She also doesn't have any kindness for our kid, making too much noise at 5 to 6 a.m. to wake her up, not lending her a car when asked to do quick runs to the store, etc. She's just being mean. My daughter sucks it up because she thinks she owes us something for letting her stay here. Yesterday, my wife just went over the top. My daughter found a job. She's doing work from home at the moment due to her pregnancy, 4 months, and was excitedly telling us that after the birth, she wants to get an apartment nearby and maybe raise my grandkid here. My wife just snorted and said that if she had already messed up her life, the least she could do was do the best for the kid and move somewhere better and maybe do it now. My daughter cried because she was basically getting kicked out, and my wife tried to minimize her feelings. So I told my wife to leave my house because I was done with her mean teenage behavior. She said I couldn't kick her out, but I could because the house is not marital property. So she left, and my in-laws are coming at me because everyone thinks she's right. Not the idiot. Your daughter's lucky to have you in her corner. Your wife is absolutely ridiculous and disrespectful. I hope she realizes she'll never meet her grandchild after this. You are protecting your child. All your daughter is doing is looking to her parents for support, and her own mother is being so cruel. My daughter did much the same thing as yours, OP. She was young and alone and came home to us, determined to make the situation a good thing. Her son was born 7 months later. She has since moved out, married, had another child, and gotten her master's. She works in her chosen field and makes a pretty penny, and my grandchildren have been raised beautifully. The point is that she hasn't messed up her life. She's taking a different path than the one your wife wanted. That's all. I really don't understand why the mom is so angry. Her daughter's 23, out of college with savings and leftover college funds, and has a job. She only doesn't have a partner. But why does she even need that? Plenty of single moms are raising kids with even less than this 23-year-old. Honestly, so weird, and this reaction feels way over the top. I think it's because the mom had dreams that her daughter's life was going to be better than hers. She would have a successful career and live in a big city and escape the town where they live. And now her dreams have been shattered and she doesn't know how to deal with it. I suspect she may have some regrets in her life that she doesn't want her daughter to experience, or she's not ready to be a grandma. I'm an affair baby. I've always been pretty well aware of this, but it's not something I tell many people. My mom was young when she met my father, and she was unaware at the time of their meeting that he was married. My mom discovered the truth about him when his wife showed up one day and told my mother that she better leave town. She found out about me less than a month later and told him, and this is when his entire family found out. My mom ended up raising me on her own mostly. He and his wife stayed together, but there were times I met and was around his family because they hated that he needed to pay child support, and eventually, my mom had to agree to say no to child support to stop him from taking me. We then moved so I wouldn't be subjected to mistreatment. My father's children told everyone, and I was in school with 2 of his nephews who spread the news around that I was an affair baby and my father didn't want me. I knew I was hated. My father's children were never shy about the fact that they hated me. When she was 17, one of his daughters told me she found me repulsive and hoped I would die from a horrible disease. I haven't seen or heard from any of these people in more than 20 years. I met my husband when I was in college, and I did tell him. He was always kind and promised me nobody would treat me that way again. He also respected that I didn't want the news to go around. His family was always nice to me and asked me questions about why I only had my mom. I told them I didn't have much of a family and my father hadn't wanted me. They found out the truth in a way that they never explained to me, but a few days ago they confronted me about being an affair baby, and how could I not tell them because it was really relevant. My husband asked them why. He said none of that was my fault. They said it was not so simple as my father being a deadbeat and my mom being the wronged party. My husband told them it was never any of their business. They told me I was a liar and that I'm ashamed of what I am, which is why I don't tell people. They said my character was questionable, knowing what they know now, and that lying is never the answer. I feel so bad because my husband is supporting me, and this has damaged my relationship with his family, but I also hate that this is the exact reaction I didn't want. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Why are they pinning it on you? You've done nothing wrong, and for someone to judge you for it is very strange. You didn't tell them because you didn't trust their reaction, and now that they've found out, they're proving you right. So tell them that all the trust you had in them is spent. One thing I've learned from my life experiences of being an affair baby is many people see someone like me as being dirty or tainted for being conceived the way we were. I was born in the South, and I found a lot of that where I was born. It's treated like an inherited part of who we'll be as well, and many people are disgusted by us for that very reason. Tell them my father and his side of the family were terrible people who were the wrong ones here. He cheated on his wife and I was the result. His family bullied my mother and me out of our hometown. Gee, I wonder why I don't like peeling back that scab to show you all the ugly bits you feel entitled to. Not telling you isn't the same as lying. Your reaction is exactly why I don't like telling people. OMG, I'm fuming on your behalf. Whatever happened in your past has absolutely nothing to do with his family. It's none of their business. You haven't caused this damage. They have by snooping, being so judgmental, and invading your privacy. Hold your head up high, honey. You've done nothing wrong.